Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Brittany. I am a wife and a mother and a lover of all things makeup and skincare. So today we are actually going to be doing an eyeshadow palette declutter. Now, while I was recording this video, I messed up somewhere apparently, because I had recorded a little bit of an introduction on the floor of my bedroom, showing you guys all of the palettes laid out flat, and I have no idea where that footage went. It's just gone. So yeah, I don't know what happened there, but when the actual footage of me decluttering starts, I have set up little piles because I basically wanted to put my palettes into sections, because that's kind of how I like to do my decluttering. I don't like to declutter just for the sake of decluttering. I like to declutter like dupes that I have basically. So yeah, I wanted to put all of my neutral palettes together and all of my colorful palettes and all of that kind of stuff, just so I could kind of see my whole collection and what I had, and it made it a little bit easier to declutter. So yeah, sorry that that footage is a little bit weird. Also, if you have been watching my videos for the past few months, you're probably like, what is going on with your background? As you guys know, we're moving in a few months. So we're putting our house on the market in 3 weeks. So I wanted to get my vanity kind of deconstructed. And so this is just a little corner of my closet actually that I'm going to be recording in for the next probably 2 months or so. So yeah, I apologize that this is a weird background, but it'll only be here for a few months. I might get a picture to put up here because it's just so bare on this side, so whatever. But yeah, that's not why you guys are here. So let's go ahead and get on to the declutter. Alright, here are my really poorly done stacks. So I have my half colorful, half neutral palettes, my green palettes, pastel palettes, rainbow palettes, neutral palettes, and then pinky and purpley tones. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start with my neutral palettes because I have the most neutral palettes. I feel like maybe the half colorful, half neutral have more, but about the same amount with my neutrals. But I rarely use neutral palettes, and I especially rarely use warm toned neutral palettes. So I think this is going to be the most ruthless that I'm going to be throughout my whole decluttering. So basically, to start, I will be keeping my Anastasia Beverly Hills Soft Glam palette because this is in my project pan right now. And so I want to get some more use out of it. So I'm going to put this to the side. And basically, if there are any palettes that are similar to that, I'm probably going to be decluttering them. As far as my cool tone neutrals, I love this one from Pixi. This is the Eye Reflection Shadow Palette in Natural Beauty. It is my favorite cool toned palette, and it is probably the neutral palette that I reach for most besides the Soft Glam, so I'm going to keep that. One that I know I'm going to get rid of for sure is this Gingerbread Spice palette. It is a super warmed tone palette, and that is not my vibe at all. So this is just an easy pass, and plus, for some reason, in my head, I just cannot use this unless it is Christmas time. So it just gets no use throughout the rest of the year. So I have two super warm toned palettes. This Pop Beauty, this is their eyeshadow palette, or this is their light show palette in Fire Fit. This is what it looks like. And then I have my Natasha Denona's Sunset palette. So these color stories are very similar. So I'm going to be keeping the Natasha Denona, and I'm going to be passing along the Pop Beauty. There's nothing wrong with the Pop Beauty, but I just don't need two super warm toned palettes when I rarely reach for them. Okay, this little e.l.f. quad, this is their Bite Size Eyeshadow in Cream and Sugar. This shade here just keeps breaking on me. I have repressed it so many times and it continues to break on me. So I'm definitely going to be decluttering that. Plus, I have these three from Kaja, and I'm going to be keeping all three of them. But this one here in Chocolate Dahlia, the shades are so similar to that e.l.f. that it's just silly to keep both. But now that I have all of these, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier to get rid of some of my other neutral palettes because I love these and I like this kind of style for neutrals because I pretty much only reach for 3 shades when I'm doing a neutral look anyway. So yeah, keeping all 3 of those. I am going to be decluttering this Juvia's Place, the Warrior palette. I love Juvia's Place, but I honestly have no idea the last time I reached for this palette. It has a lot of shimmers, and I don't prefer shimmers. I prefer more mattes and just a few shimmers. because mattes are what I use most for my eyeshadow look, so I'm going to declutter this. I'm also going to be decluttering this I'm Meme Multi-Cube. This is in Sweet Pink. There's nothing really wrong with it, but the shades are just a little bit lackluster and I don't reach for it. This actually should have gone with the pinky palettes, but that's okay. I just know that one of my family members would get a lot more use out of it than I would. So definitely going to be passing this along. All right, this is where I'm like struggling because I kind of want to keep all of these just because I really do like them all. Ooh, this is really hard. So the ColourPop and Disney Designer, I'm going to be keeping this. This also probably could have gone with the pinks, but it's more neutral. So I'm going to be keeping this because it makes me happy, so. Guys, I thought I was gonna be so ruthless, but I think I'm gonna be keeping the Juvia's Place Nubian 3 Coral. This color story is so fun and unique, and I do love the really cool tone shades in here. If I don't get a lot of use out of it in the next few months, then I will pass it along, but for right now, I still like it, and I still want to keep it. Okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. This is gonna hurt. I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna get rid of the Going Coconuts palette from ColourPop. Everybody loves this, and I like it too, just fine. But I have these colors in every single other palette, so I don't need it. Oh, this is so hard. Oh, this is so hard. Let me just hold on. Let's just open these up. Let's just open these up because maybe that'll make me feel better. Okay, we're gonna open these up and see. Okay, yep, I'm actually going to get rid of both of these. This Pixie, this is the IFX in Hazelnut Haze, and the Going Coconuts from ColourPop. Oh my gosh, that hurts so much, but I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna keep this is the Ulta Beauty and Harry Potter Hufflepuff palette. I am a Hufflepuff, so I have to keep it. I just have to. And I feel like the shade Lumos is very similar to the one in the Going Coconuts, which is like the main reason I wanted to keep it. This is Palm Reader. I just think this shade is so pretty, but I feel like it's probably similar enough that it's it's not gonna make much of a difference, like when it's all blended out. Yeah, like they're very similar. So yeah, I can pass this along. I can do it. All right, for neutrals, I'm getting rid of 7 and I'm keeping 9, and I feel very good about that, especially because 3 of them are just little trios. And just in case you were wondering, I'm sure I already put this in the intro, but all of these palettes are going to be going to a good home. I'm going to pass them along to friends or family, and then if they do not want them, then I'm going to be putting them on my Instagram page and basically saying that people can have them. All they have to do is pay for shipping. So yeah, none of these are going to waste. This elf one I might toss just because it's completely shattered and it's a hot mess, but I'll still see if anybody wants it before I do that. But yeah, all of the other palettes will definitely be going to a good home, and I'm pretty happy with that. I do think 9 is still a lot of palettes, but it's definitely better than what I had, which was a 16. All right, for this round, I actually decided to like open up all of the palettes so that I could see the color stories. I think that'll make it a lot easier for me to declutter them. So first, I am going to be decluttering my Modern Renaissance palette. I actually used this a few days ago, and my eyelid like got really swollen, so I think this palette is officially expired. I've had it for like 5 years, I feel like. So yeah, it's definitely time to go ahead and get rid of this. I am also going to be getting rid of this Truly Madly Deeply palette. I won't lie to you guys, I definitely gave into the hype with this palette. Everybody was raving about it, and I think I have used this palette like 2 times since I bought it, and I bought it like a year ago. That's ridiculous. So I need to give it to somebody else who would actually get some use out of it. One I definitely want to keep is the Huda Beauty Mercury Retrograde palette. I love this color story. This is like my perfect like purpley palette. I love the little pops of blue and everything. This is just such a good palette, so I definitely want to keep it. I also definitely want to keep my Natasha Denona Love palette. It's so pretty, and I definitely feel like this is a very good pink and purple palette. So I think I'm actually going to keep both of these. This is the ColourPop La Belle of the Ball from the Animal Crossing collab. I love Animal Crossing, which is like the main reason I got this. So I am going to keep this. And I also am going to be keeping the ColourPop and Hello Kitty and Friends palette. This is the Snow Much Fun palette. It's so cute. But because I'm keeping these, it's really hard for me to get rid of collab palettes. But I think I'm going to be getting rid of this one, which is from the ColourPop and Frozen 2 collab. This is the Anna palette. And I just feel like if I'm keeping these two, I definitely do not need this one. And then last is the Sweet Talk palette. I actually have not used this a ton, but I'm going to keep it around for a little bit longer. And basically, if I do not use it over the next few months, I will go ahead and get rid of it. But for now, I'm going to keep it just because this is a little bit more unique to my collection with the color story. But yeah, I'm unsure how much use I'm actually going to get out of it. All right, for my pinks and purple palettes, I'm keeping 5 and I'm getting rid of 3. And that feels pretty darn good. Okay, so I tried to do the same thing that I did with my pink and purple palettes, where I just like laid them all out so that I could see them with my half colorful, half neutral palettes, but I have way too many. So I have these 3 that I'm going to put in a second. So let me go through the ones here and then we'll go through those. So this is going to be my hardest category to declutter because I love these palettes. These are some of my favorite palettes in my collection, but I know that some of them are getting basically no use at all. So those are the ones that need to go. So I probably am not going to be quite as ruthless with this one, but that's okay. So the first one I am going to declutter is the Royal Affair palette from BH Cosmetics. I loved this palette, raved about it for years, and this entire year I've used it 0 times, and I haven't even thought about it, and that tells me that it needs to go. Okay, I'm going to be putting this one in. All right, so the next one I'm going to be keeping actually is this BH Cosmetics Zodiac palette. This was my favorite palette for the longest time. I absolutely love it. I know it's huge and bulky, but I don't even care. It is just a favorite, and I honestly could not see myself getting rid of it for a very long time. I still love it just as much as I did when I first purchased it. All right, adding in my last 2 here. You're probably not going to be able to see all of that one, but that's okay. Anyway, next one I'm going to be keeping is my Natasha Denona Zendo palette. This is the newest palette in my collection, so I definitely want to keep this around. It's a very pretty palette. I have heard some mixed reviews. I did enjoy it. The only shade I don't love is Vigor, and I've noticed that Calm is already looking like really used, like it's like looks like it's about to hit pan on it or something, and I've only had it for a few weeks, so that's my only complaints. But I do really enjoy this palette, so definitely want to keep it. So the next one I'm going to be decluttering is the Life's a Drag palette. This is from Lunar Beauty, and honestly I don't reach for it. I think it's just a little bit odd because of the like half colorful and half neutral. The way they did it is just a little bit odd for me. So I do love the formula. I think that Lunar Beauty is like killing it with their formula, and I honestly want to try more from Lunar Beauty, but this palette is just, it's not for me. The next one I'm going to be keeping is this Don't Mess with Texas palette from Peachy Queen Cosmetics. I was born and raised in Texas, so I definitely want to keep this. It just makes my heart happy. So I'm going to be keeping it, and plus the color story is very fun. Okay, so this is definitely getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I don't really want to get rid of anything, but I probably should. So I am going to keep the ColourPop and Hocus Pocus collab. I love this palette so much. I love the color story. I love the grungy tones, and yeah, it's just so much fun. I also am going to be keeping the ColourPop and Frozen 2 Elsa palette. I did get rid of the Anna palette, but I think the Elsa palette is just so much fun. I love this shade here, which is Northern Lights. It's a gorgeous duochrome, so I do want to keep this and play with it some more. I'm also going to be keeping my Pure and Raw Beauty Christie palette. So this has a rainbow side on this side and then a neutral side on this. Perfect for travel, so I definitely want to keep it for a little bit longer. I also am going to be keeping my ColourPop and Disney Designer Midnight Masquerade palette. Oh, this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. I absolutely love it. Love Madame Odie. Absolutely stunning shade. So is Frog and Wife. I love this color story so much. They killed it with this palette. The only shades that I'm struggling with are the 2 pressed glitters, which you guys know I don't love pressed glitters. not for me, but I love this palette. So this Mulan palette, I definitely should have put with the neutrals. I, for some reason, thought there was more red tones, but I am going to keep this just because I do not have a lot of like reds in my collection. And I love Mulan. She's one of my favorite princesses. The only princess that has her beat is Rapunzel. But I love Mulan. She was my favorite princess growing up, so I have to keep this palette. All right, so we're down to the final 4, and I honestly think I'm just going to be getting rid of one of these, which that's fine. That's fine. I'm allowed to keep as many as I want. This is my declutter anyway. So I'm going to be keeping the Tiny Marvels palette from Sydney Grace and Mel Thompson. I love this color story. So much fun. I love these grungy tones. Oh, so beautiful. I'm also going to be keeping this Pop Beauty palette. This is the Light Show palette in Dusk Deluxe. I just think it's really pretty and it's fun, and I definitely want to keep a pop palette in my collection because they're so sweet. They're one of the first brands that ever sent me PR, so they hold a special place in my heart, and so I want to keep this around. And then we're down to the final 2. So I'm going to be keeping one and decluttering one. So the one I'm going to be decluttering is the Festival palette from Juvia's Place. I truly think I've maybe used this palette once. If you look, you can see that I've maybe used 2 of the shades. Like, it's virtually brand new. So somebody will get a pretty much brand new palette because I just never reached for it. I don't know why. I think it's the color story. It's just not for me. Which means I will be keeping the Juvia's Place The Magic Mini palette. How could I not? How could I not? It's so gorgeous. It is the perfect mix of cool tone and warm tone shades. Just love it. So happy to be keeping this in my collection. All right, so that one was rough, but I knew it would be. So I'm keeping 11 and I'm getting rid of 3, which is fine as long as I actually use these palettes. And if I see that I'm not getting use out of them, they will be decluttered as well. But I feel really good about that because these are the palettes that I reach for more than most of my collection. Like, I love these types of palettes, so I know that I'll probably get a lot of good use out of them. Okay, so here are my green palettes, and I know this is ridiculous. I know what I'm about to say is ridiculous, but I'm keeping all 5 of these because I love green tones. They are my favorite tones in my entire collection. So I have used these more than most of the other palettes in my collection, and I don't want to get rid of any of them. I love them all. So I'm just going to quickly show you them, but I will be keeping all of them. So this is the ColourPop and Star Wars The Mandalorian palette. Oh, love it. I love this shade here, which is Babyface. The color story is too cute. Then we have my e.l.f. Bite Size Trio and Hot Jalapeno. I use this so much. I reach for this so much because the tones are just perfect to do just a nice green eyeshadow. So nice. This is my Juvia's Place The Tribe palette, and this neon yellowish green is too beautiful. So I definitely am keeping this palette for this shade and this shade for sure, and then this shade here. Just love them, and I could not see myself getting rid of this palette. Then we have my ColourPop Nook Ink palette. I just love it. It's so cute. This reminds me, like, this is what I think of when I think of Animal Crossing, is like this color. So I have to keep this palette. Plus, I love this Yes Yes shade. Such a beautiful mint shade. And then the last one is the Ulta and Harry Potter collab. This is the Slytherin palette. I really do like this palette as well. I think the shades are very, very pretty. Okay, so I know you guys are probably going to be like, what was even the point of this video? But here are my pastel palettes, and I'm going to be keeping all 4 of these as well. I love pastel shades, and I don't have a ton of them, so I want to keep the ones that I have around, and I actually use these all the time. So the first is my Moira Sweet Delights palette. This is one of my newest pastel palettes. It's so beautiful. I love it so much. It's currently in my Shop My Stash, so I've been getting a ton of use out of it, and I think it's such a beautiful palette. Next is my Juvia's Place The Deuce palette. I love this as well. This was my first ever pastel palette, and it makes me so happy, even though this is not actually available anymore, which is ridiculous. Like, Juvia's Place needs to bring this back because it's such a nice palette. I love the shade Tart. I love the shade Macaroons. Like, so good. Then we have probably my new favorite palette in my collection. This is the Glamlight Ice Cream Dream palette. I really do think this is probably my favorite palette in my entire collection. I love it. I love that they have the really nice pastels down here, but there also are some like brighter colors and some neutral tones. It's pretty much everything I could ever want in a palette. I love it. I love it. If all of my palettes disappeared tomorrow, this would be the first one I would pick up. 100% for sure. And then last is my ColourPop and Sailor Moon palette. It's so pretty and fun, and I do use it quite a lot, so I definitely want to keep it as well. Okay, these are my last palettes. These are what I would consider my rainbow palettes. I only can see one right off the bat that I know I'm going to be getting rid of. The other ones I am very unsure of. We'll see how it goes. I'm already like getting nervous just looking at these because I really do want to keep all of them. But I know looking at them that a lot of the shades are pretty similar. So let's go ahead and get started. First, I'm going to be keeping my Kaleidos and Angelica Nyqvist Club Nebula palette. I got this palette this year. It launched this year. And it's so pretty. I love it. It's definitely one of my favorite palettes in my collection. So I definitely want to keep that. Okay, when I'm looking at them, these two palettes here look pretty similar. I mean, they're not exact dupes, but I feel like the color stories are similar. So I'm just going to keep one of them. This first is the Afrique palette from Juvia's Place. And this is the ColourPop and Raw Beauty Kristi At Foresight palette. So I think I'm going to keep the At Foresight palette and get rid of the Afrique palette. Okay, so I actually kind of feel like these three like have similar vibes to them. I kind of feel like I only need to keep two. So what I'm going to do is, these are the Flamingo palette from Violet Voss, the BH Cosmetics Trendy in Tokyo palette, and the Juvia's Place the Zulu palette. This is really hard. I know I don't need to keep all of them. I actually think that even though this palette is pretty new to me, I think the palette that I'm going to declutter, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm saying this, is the BH Cosmetics Trendy in Tokyo palette. This, I don't know, the formula is not as good as a lot of the other BH Cosmetics formulas are, so I think this is the one that I'm going to declutter, even though it makes me a little bit sad. It's not that great of a palette, guys. So I'm going to keep the other two for sure. This is one of my favorite palettes in my collection, and the Zulu palette is just really fun and bright, so I think that's what I'm going to go for. And then lastly is my Disney Villains and ColourPop Misunderstood palette. I am going to keep this. The shimmers in here are so spectacular, and I don't have a lot of these like deep vampy shimmers, so I definitely want to keep this as well. All right, so I'm decluttering 2 and I'm keeping 5, which is okay. I feel like that's pretty good. I'm still a little bit sad about this. It's tempting me to keep it, but I know I shouldn't. This one's hard. This one's really killing me because I feel like it's just, the color story is so pretty. Oh gosh, I don't know. Okay, you know what, actually, this is ridiculous, I know, but I think I'm actually going to keep this, but it's going to be like on the shopping block. So if the next like 3 or 4 looks that I do with this are not good, I'm going to put it in my Shop My Stash next month. And if the looks just aren't good, or if the shades are not good quality, then I will declutter it at that point. So it's ridiculous. So I'm only getting rid of one from this little set. All right, so it looks like I'm keeping 40 and getting rid of 14. It's definitely not as good as I was hoping to do, but I also don't want to just get rid of products just to get rid of them. So I do have a few palettes that are on the chopping block. So if I don't end up using them within the next few months, I will be decluttering them, and I'll let you know in a video later on if that happens. But at least I decluttered some of my palettes, and now I don't have to take as many with me when we move. So not as good as I wanted it to be, but not horrible either, right? All right, guys, so that is everything. I feel really good, actually. So as you guys saw in the footage, I was kind of like complaining, or I don't know, like a little bit down on myself that I didn't declutter as much as I was hoping for, but when I actually like calculated it, I decluttered 25% of my eyeshadow palettes. So yeah, now I'm actually like really proud of myself, but back when I recorded that, I've actually recorded the declutter like a week ago. I was just really down on myself. I was like, oh, I didn't even declutter that much, but I actually decluttered 25%, so that's really, really good. I'm hoping that now that I've done this declutter, it'll help me not to purchase so many eyeshadow palettes. I like am an eyeshadow palette addict. I'm constantly purchasing new palettes, but I need to get better at not doing that because clearly I'm not able to use all of the palettes in my collection because of that. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, let me know down below, how many eyeshadow palettes do you have in your collection? Because I feel like I still at 40 palettes have an excessive amount of eyeshadow palettes, but I kind of want to know how many you guys have. I know some of you guys that are watching probably have more, and some of you guys that are watching probably have way less, and you're like, holy moly, how do you still have 40 palettes? That's ridiculous, which it kind of is, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, I do have a channel dedicated to my makeup and skincare addiction, and then I also have an entire Instagram account that's pretty much just focused on makeup and skincare as well, so not trying to justify it because it's an excessive amount of eyeshadow palettes. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling now. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for a few minutes, and I'll see you guys in a few days with another video. Bye guys.